camera?
You do not know, you should look at them. Pay no attention to the camera. Whenever you're ready.
So as Americans, it is clear to see that processed meat is not only largely part of our diet, but has become embedded into our culture. Growing up in Boston, there was nothing better than getting a hot dog at Fenway Park while watching the Red Sox. And during elementary school, my mom would always put deli meats in my sandwiches. We are a society of quick, convenient, and ready-to-eat meats. However, convenience comes with a big cost. Consuming processed meats such as hot dogs, hamburgers, sausages, pepperoni, and yes, bacon, is all closely linked to deathly heart-related problems and cancer of the colon and rectum. Eating processed meats poses a serious threat to human health. Eating more than just 1 ounce per week greatly increases the development of heart diseases, heart attacks, and strokes. Published in the Harvard Health publication, every serving per day of processed meats increased the risk of developing heart disease by 42%. There are two main reasons why processed meats are so harmful to the heart. The first is salt. So salt is used as a preservative to keep processed meats from going bad, but processed meats are 4 times saltier than unprocessed meats. When there is an overaccumulation of sodium in the body, what happens is that your blood vessels have a really hard time pumping blood to your heart. And over time, there can actually be a buildup of plaque that make the blood vessels even really, really small. And what ends up happening is that your heart, the blood vessels, have an even harder time pumping blood to the heart. So the Harvard School of Public Health states higher intake of salt can cause a 23% increase in stroke and a 14% increase in heart disease. The second reason is a compound known as carnitine. So carnitine is a compound naturally found in the human body. And what it does is that it metabolizes energy in our body. But processed meats have really, really high concentrations of carnitine. So when carnitine is eaten and digested, it produces a byproduct in the gut area, stomach, known as TMAO, which is short for it because the other is really long. Anyways, in TMAO, that compound has been clinically proven to clog arteries, which leads to heart disease. So the Cleveland Clinic did a study that tested and compared carnitine levels and the TMO compound in both vegetarians and vegans, and then compared it with those who were eating lots of processed meats. And the results concluded that vegans and vegetarians had much lower levels of TMAO, even though they consumed the same amount of carnitine, but not through processed meat and meat products. So now that we are done understanding the dangers of the heart, let's move on to the risk of cancer of the colon and the rectum. So colon and rectum cancer is actually the first cause of cancer death among non-smokers. The American Cancer Society did a study that suggested high consumptions of processed meat over 10 years associated with a 50% increase in cancer of the colon and rectum. Now I want to give you guys an idea of what they mean by high consumption. So high consumption was considered 1 ounce or 1 serving per day, 5 to 6 times per week for men, and 2 to 3 times per week for women. So to get an idea of what a serving or an ounce is, you can consider like an average length hot dog. And that's going to be actually 2 ounces, so 2 servings. So extensive research and studies have pointed the finger at the compound of nitrosamine that is directly correlated with colon and rectum cancer. So nitrosamine is actually a compound that is formed when nitrite is ingested, and those compounds are found in processed meat and used as a preservative, especially to preserve its color. So the National Institute believes that nitrosamine causes the formation of bacteria in the gut, leading to cancerous cells. So processed meat may be convenient and even nostalgic of childhood, yet it is evident that consuming these meats do more harm than good. With a significant increase in the likelihood of both heart problems and cancer, it is concluded that processed meats poses a serious threat to human health.
All right, Jillian, I thought that you started off pretty well with a nice unifying statement as an attention device and the personal example. That's fun. That leads us up to the subject. I know what I thought you had a pretty clear transition to the proposition, but you didn't really identify the proposition. There were, in fact, a couple of statements that sounded like they could have been the proposition at the beginning of the speech. So that was a little problematic. However, right at the end of the speech, I like the fact that you came back. You had a clear statement of the proposition at that point. So even though it was a little bit more ambiguous than you'd like at the beginning, by the end, it's pretty clear. I mean, most of your evidence goes directly to the point that you're talking about. It just needs to be a little bit sharper. There's not really a preview of the structure of the supporting points in the presentation. In fact, you get started on the first point, and it sounds to me like the way you're organizing this is you've got the salts and the carnitine, and then the colon cancer, and then it almost sounds like there are 4 or 5 points that you're presenting. And so that was a little bit confusing. I can see how they are all connected on the first point, and once you start talking about colon cancer, that seems like that's actually the second point. All the way it's been organized, it comes out as being the third point. So you want to be a little bit clearer on the structure. Remember, it's casual listeners that you have to worry about. People who are listening closely, they'll be okay. They'll follow what you're saying, but you can't depend on them. A lot of people are not as good a listener as they need to be. We talked about that when we were talking about audience analysis. Sometimes you have discussion audiences or pedestrian audiences, and they've got mixed motives for listening, so you got to work a little bit on that. So I thought you had very good evidence, by the way. I thought you cited your evidence consistently, giving us the authority of the organization that did the research. There's a lot of good statistical evidence. I think, other than your examples in the introduction, you don't really have any specific examples, just kind of general ideas that you're talking about. There's some factual data in the speech, and I'm sure the factual data is mostly from the research that you cited, but it was not always cited that way. And again, even though you're citing experts, most of it's going into the into the statistics category. We don't have anybody who's giving us authoritative information about this, giving us their opinion. It's mostly the statistics. So it's going to fit more in that category than in the other categories. I thought you made pretty sound generalizations, and you did a good job defining what you meant by the different terms. The only thing that I would say that you need to worry about on your delivery is practice some of those terms, because obviously you're struggling a little bit here and there. Don't worry about it,